So today we will start reading Belonging by Toko-pa Turner, and I would like to read what is on the back. Do you feel like you don't belong? You are not alone. The world has never been more connected, yet people are lonelier than ever. Whether we feel unworthy, alienated, or anxious about our place in the world, the absence of belonging is the great silent wound of our times. So I will cancel the video and I will work with my microphone to read for you the first part of Belonging. Belonging, Remembering Ourselves Home by Toko-pa Turner. Chapter 1. Something Greater. To this world you belong. To this moment, in this place where you already stand, something greater has ushered you. To the momentum of a long line of survivors you are bound, from their good death succeeded by new lives, and to the incidents of love that seeded them, your story has been woven. With the wild jubilation of nature, you are in correspondence. By every season's conditions and by the invisible holy inclination, your life has been hewn. And yet you may feel, as so many us do, the ache of a life orphaned from belonging. There are many ways to be made an orphan, outright by the parent incapable of caring for you, or by the ones who neglected to understand your gifts, by the system which demands your loyalty but trades away your uniqueness, or by history which through intolerance and war has made you a refugee. But we are also made orphans by a culture that, in its epitomizing of certain values, rejects others, forcing us to split off from those unwanted parts of ourselves. And this is perhaps the worst orphaning act of all, because it is an abandonment in which we are complicit. With this meager scratch to begin it, without so much as the acknowledgement of all that we've been lost from, we must fare away. We must begin with absence, a longing for what might never be assuaged, and follow it deep into the heart of exile, to discover what, if anything, can be made out of nothing, to make a foundling of the orphaned life. Though it governs so much, belonging is rarely spoken about in the open. Like grief, death, and inadequacy, we are led to believe that to feel unbelonging is shameful and should be hidden from view. The great irony is that modern culture is suffering an epidemic of alienation, yet so many of us feel alone in our unbelonging, as if everyone else was inside of that thing that we alone are outside of. And keeping silent about our experience of estrangement is, in large part, what allows it to perpetuate. We are living in fragmented times, with racism, sexism, xenophobia, and other systemic forms of othering on the rise all over the world. Never before have we experienced such seismic migrations of humans across our borders as we do today. And the challenges of settlement and integration are vast and complex, even several generations down the line. Today we find ourselves at a critical juncture, divided on the fault lines of politics, class, gender, and race. In its silent way, belonging is the central conversation of our times. Certainly one of the most influential motivators of my own life, the longing to belong, was shaping me in ways that I was largely unconscious of, until it finally grabbed me by the hair and pulled me deep into its terrifying dimensions. This book is the travelogue of the initiation that took years and a passage through seemingly endless gates, each of which required the relinquishment of something precious to me. And so, I write to you not as an expert to belonging, but as an orphan who needed to discover that there was more to lose before I could be found. There are many different kinds of belonging. The first kind that comes to mind is the feeling of belonging in a community or to a geography. But for many of us, longing to belong begins in our own families. Then there is the longing we feel to belong with an intimate other in the sanctuary of a relationship, and the belonging we yearn to feel in a purpose or vocation. There is also a spiritual longing to belong to a set of ways or traditions, the longing to know and participate in ancestral knowledge. And though we may not even notice how its severance influences us, the ache to belong in our own bodies. There are also subtler forms of belonging, like the one we must eventually create with our own story, and the gifts that have been forged from it. And if we take a broader view, there is a belonging with the earth itself, which is felt or not felt at the heart of us all. Finally, there is the great belonging which may be the most nebulous and persistent of all, the longing to belong to that something greater, which gives our lives meaning. The Living Bridge. In northeast India, high in the mountains of Meghalaya, the summer monsoons are so heavy that the rivers running through its valleys grow wild and unpredictable, making them impossible to cross. Centuries ago, the villagers came up with an artful solution. They planted a strangler fig on the riverbank and began to coax its raveling roots across the river until they took hold on the opposite side. Through a slow process of binding and weaving the roots together, the villagers created a sturdy living bridge that could withstand the deluge of summer rains. But because it is a labor that cannot be completed in any one person's lifetime, the knowledge of how to bind and tend to the roots has to be transmitted to each of the younger generations who keep the practice alive, contributing to what is now a thrilling network of living root bridges throughout the valleys of Meghalaya. If we take the living bridge as a metaphor for the work of belonging, we can imagine ourselves being stranded on one side of a dangerous river, longing to be connected to something greater that lies beyond our reach. Whether it is the yearning to find our true place, our people, or a meaningful relationship, the longing to belong is the great silent motivator behind so many of our other ambitions. In my years of working with dreams, I have found this longing to belong at the heart of so many people's inquiries. It is the longing to be recognized for one's gifts, to be welcomed in love and kinship, to feel a sense of purpose and necessity to our community. But it is also the longing to open to the sacred dimension of our lives, to feel in service to something noble, to live in magic and wonder. Yet, alienation, belonging's dark sister, is so pervasive that we might call it epidemic. We are more technologically connected to one another than we've ever been, and yet never more lonely and estranged. We are the generations who have missed receiving the inheritance of knowledge that will bridge us back to belonging. But what's worse is that in our amnesia, we often don't even know what's missing. More and more, our interactions with one another are being supplanted by machines, whether it is through digital communication, customer service, robots, or retail machines, where humans used to be. We are becoming captives of the mechanical age. Designed by corporate interest, we are reduced to consumers, cogs in the very machine to which we are beholden. This larger, often hidden entity is a substantial part of what contributes to us feeling dehumanized, giving us the sense that we are expendable. We don't love the machine and it doesn't love us back. We try to get on, contributing our small piece to the mechanical choreography of things, but there is a sense of purposelessness which plagues us. We unconsciously feel that there is something greater to which we long to belong, and though we may not be able to articulate what it is, we perceive others belonging to this greater something while we look in from the outside. We ache to have our absence from the circle of belonging noticed. It poisons us from the inside out. Though we try to stay busy, the hidden loneliness underneath is rarely assuaged. Given the first breath of silence, there is an upwelling of alienation so great that it threatens to swallow us whole. No matter how much we accumulate or accomplish, the pang of unbelonging continues to pierce from within. And so we treat our lives like a project for improvement. attempting to become useful, admired, impervious, or savvy. We work at cutting off any unwieldiness that may be preventing us from fitting in. But as this self-development encroaches upon our inner wilderness, our dreams and our connection to the holy suffers. As we harness every last resource in service to the unconscious longing to belong, we feel less and less at home. This is our starting place, right in that raw fissure of our lostness, down in the ache to find our place in the family of things. Before we even ask ourselves how to heal our estrangement, we must first sink down into the wound itself and apprentice ourselves to it. We must enter into the question of what has been missing from us, or what are we being deprived. Only when we lower ourselves down into that holy longing can we get a glimpse of the majesty we are meant to become. Thank you for listening. Please leave a comment and give a like to this video if you would like me to keep sharing these kind of readings and these kind of books. I hope it helps you find your way to belonging and your way home to your soul.